right. Good evening, folks. Let's call this meeting to order. Could I please have a roll call, Dan?
Woken, Goss,
Here.
Harper, Loxton,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Venice Thiernot,
Here.
Summers.
Present. All right, we have a quorum. Can I have approval for the agenda, please? Can I have a motion? Mr. Goss makes the motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
By Ms. Lokshin. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Also, approval of our minutes from October 5th. Again, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So motion.
Thank you for Beth. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, that was Leah. All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, do we have public participation? Seeing none, let's move on to communications. Does any member of the committee have any communications to present? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to new business. A, discussion of the Humane Society facility and land lease. George Amaya. George, do you want to come up to the mic? Just push the button until you get the red light.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to address this committee. I have with me Mary Tiefenbrunn, the Executive Director of the Humane Society. Darren Taylor, he's the new president of the board. I'm technically past president, I guess. We have one of those. Yeah, Lee, they don't let me go. The purpose of this presentation is to update the county board and this committee in particular with the Champaign County Humane Society's progress with our construction project and to discuss the disposition of our facility at 1911 East Main Street. And I do want to stress that what we're looking for is we want to work toward a win-win relationship here, a win-win position. I have a presentation. I think it's about 10 minutes. It may go a little bit longer, but we feel it's necessary to just kind of get everybody on the same page and where we've been and where we're going and what we're thinking and get some feedback from you guys as well. I'd like to start with I don't know how many people here, I know Steve probably knows, and I don't know if anyone knows about the history of the county Humane Society relationship. And with this great little piece of tidbit of information, we've enjoyed a win-win partnership with the county for about 67 years. In fact, back in 1954, the county contracted the Humane Society to house animals at our Bonneville facility. So it's been quite a long time. And in 1985, we were in need of a new home. We were looking to move. We were raising money to do the same thing. We approached the county as well as the cities of Champaign and Urbana to talk about the various animal control related services that the Humane Society provides to the county, the residents, the cities, etc. Our original lease that we came to with the county, which spanned from November 1986 to December 2011, basically the county was going to put up the land, almost 3 acres that we have, where we have a facility, and the Humane Society would fund and pay for the construction of the building that's currently there. And we would also be providing services continued providing services to the county as we had been in the past. Our current lease was revised in 2016. It runs through 2026, and it gives us an option to extend through 2041. In this lease, the Humane Society is required to pay some rent And so we pay part in cash and part for services that we provide the county and animal control in our continued collaboration with the county. And this in exchange, again, just for the land on which our building sits. In the initial agreement, the Humane Society housed strays and impounded animals for the county, animal control, and handled lost and found reports and returns to owners. This contractual relationship existed until about 2003 or 2004 when the county built its own animal services facility for housing stray and impounded animals. I have to lick my fingers, excuse me. Since that time, the Humane Society and Animal Control have continued working closely together. The Humane Society accepts unclaimed adoptable animals, dogs, cats, and the occasional other small pets. And in fact, last year was to the tune of like 921, the 2021 season, I believe it was. So, owner surrendered lot. I'm sorry, I'm misleading. I'm trying to ad lib, and I should stick to the script. I apologize. We also work together on spay and neuter initiatives and low-cost vaccine clinics. The Humane Society investigators and county animal control officers routinely work together to address cases of animal neglect, abandonment, and hoarding. The Humane Society continues to play a key role in humane animal support and education services to the county and its citizens. In fact, that's part of our plan with our new facility and the education building that we're adding to our repertoire, if you will, of services and capabilities that we have. A quick history lesson on our building plans. In 2016, the Board of Directors for the Humane Society began planning a much-needed major renovation to our existing facilities, which is about 10,700 square feet on the building on Main Street. And we added a 7,000 square foot education building in our plans because of the need that in Champaign County are always evolving. And proper behavioral training support increases the likelihood that animals will be more successfully integrated into their forever homes. So it's a worthwhile and, quite frankly, a demand from the community that they'd like to see a little bit more from, and we're trying to meet those needs. The capital campaign was launched in 2018 with a goal of raising $1.75 million. It was successfully completed in 2020, and we had our construction plans about ready when, as some people call it, the pandemic emerged. In March of last year, the world decided to have itself a pandemic, and of course, that threw a lot up in the air, as you all know, as everybody's well aware. For us, in particular, in reference to our construction plans, materials costs and the global labor disruptions quickly drove costs through the roof, and pun intended on that one. Our project about doubled to somewhere between $3.2 to $3.4 million, plus related moving expenses and other new cages, new equipment, et cetera. Our price just skyrocketed. The Humane Society and the board was forced to reconsider our plans, and quite frankly, our number one question that faced the board quickly became, is it prudent to invest so much money into a building sitting on land not owned by the Humane Society with a limited 20-year lease and no guarantee of renewals after 2041? In fact, the first thing we did is we went straight to our donors to ask them this particular questions, and our big donors in particular, who, you know, as we discussed and worked through this, you know, the consensus was pretty uniform that looking for a different facility should certainly be in our plan. The Humane Society approached the county and we requested an option to either buy the 3 acres of land currently leased, or we requested an extension, a 30-year extension on our existing lease. Approval for the land sale became impractical because there would be infrastructure requirements by code. There were sidewalks, drainage, all sorts of things, and that was a tremendous amount of money. Champaign County generously offered the Humane Society a 10-year lease extension, but in the end, that really didn't satisfy the criteria of our board. Needless to say, we found ourselves in a dilemma. But as my board heard from me frequently, one of the things that my dad used to say, and I like to quote, my dad always used to say, There are no problems in life. They're just unrealized opportunities. And so while we were considering an option, the Humane Society found a unique opportunity in West Champaign at 4003 Kearns that offered us several significant advantages as an alternative to building at our current location. First and foremost, it matched our building and space requirements amazingly well. I mean, it was really pretty incredible that we found a location that could meet those needs. As everyone I'm sure is aware, renovating an existing building is much cheaper than building a new one. So we were looking at buildings that were well built and well maintained, and that was a huge advantage in our consideration. The building being designated for our education building was also much larger than we had originally planned. I think we had originally planned a 7,000 square foot building here. It's an 11,000 square foot building, which gives us an additional 4,000 square feet. And for us, it offered greater expansion potentials in the future. Also, the acquiring of a separate location as opposed to building or renovating the existing location offered relief from associated project costs, moving expenses, temporary housing, et cetera, which would have been considerable. Our estimation, somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 for temporary facilities during construction. Additionally, the site, I don't know if you guys are familiar where this site is. It's off of Staley Road, about a block or so south of Springfield. That site also offered additional advantages. First of all, it's located more centrally within our service area in Champaign County and closer to a greater number of supporters overall on average. The Kearns property also puts us closer to growth centers in Champaign County and within major traffic corridors, both east, west, and north, south in those growth areas. And certainly from a financial standpoint, clearly the more fiscally responsible decision for our board, for any nonprofit organization really, is, if possible, to own both the buildings and the land where we have our facilities. The board of directors of the Humane Society also revisited the idea of something that's been on our wish list for some time, is the idea of opening a low-cost veterinary service facility for low-income citizens of Champaign County. This is a community that's underserved, and we feel that it's something worth addressing. We recognize, of course, that potential for us is that the existing facility could be converted to that, and that's something that we've discussed. Our current status is that we have purchased the Kearns property. We did that earlier this year, and we've started construction. Our estimated completion is 14 to 18 months from now. Now, of course, there are some financial considerations in all this for us that we've gone over quite a lot. As you guys go over your financial considerations, so do we. There's a lot of them. The investment in the Kearns property was considerable. It's a property value of $900,000. This added expense will eventually impact our investment accounts that we rely on to cover some of our annual operating expenses. And like everyone else, like all other nonprofits and all other organizations, we are currently suffering negative impact on our annual fundraising drives with the pandemic still in play. Ultimately, though, the board of directors is responsible for the organization's sound financial stewardship. So we are, of course, interested in recovering our value in the existing building on Main Street here. But once again, the opportunity was merely awaiting a realization. Our realtor recommended that we explore the sublet option granted to us under our lease agreement. As part of our due diligence process, we asked him to provide us with a market analysis of the current property on East Main Street. His estimated lease value is $9 per square foot gross, or comes to like $93,000 annually. By our calculations, assuming that the Humane Society moves to its new facility within 12 to 18 months, we could use the Main Street property to offset our costs for the Kearns property purchase. If we think about it, over 18 years times $93,000, that's $1,674,000. Now, this plan would also generate enough income to cover necessary building improvements, maintenance, and property management fees, expenses. Our broker has recommended that we list the property, if we choose to follow this option, that we list the property starting January of 2022 to give us plenty of time to market it. Now, there are, of course, other considerations in the playing field that we have to take into consideration. The Humane Society would have to commit even more resources initially to make the Main Street property more attractive to a potential subletter, and we would have to assume a role of landlord. The return on investment is long-term. It does not address immediate needs, and that comes into play especially if we continue to see deficits in our annual fundraising goals. Other local issues have also reminded us that our primary commitment is service to our entire community. The Humane Society Board always tries to maintain a more holistic consideration of our role and responsibility within the greater Champaign County community. That's foundational to what we do. For example, recent stresses within the county's animal control management services, our working partner in this relationship, also impacts our mission. And so we instinctively look to help. In fact, probably some of you on the committee, the chief joined a committee, an ad hoc committee, I think, that the county board put together on addressing issues with animal control. I will tell you, as I've told people before, TIF is a tremendous resource in this industry. And there are a lot of things that you can bring to the table to help you, not just in solving existing problems, current problems, but in helping you establish policies and procedures, etc. So please utilize her. I'm giving her more work. We're not paying her for that, by the way. But please use her. She's a phenomenal resource. We also recognize that the county itself could potentially make better use of our Main Street facility. We've heard mention of 3 potential county uses by friends of the Humane Society. You know, and I don't know what you guys have discussed to date, but we know potentially a sheriff's office, either temporary, permanent facility. Animal control, we understand as well, needs some improvements. They're short on space, etc. Potentially, it would be a good fit for you guys. We've also heard of the potential for a segregated holding facility for legal detainees with mental health issues. Again, for us, it's, you know, what we've heard because we're part of the community. We're engaged citizens in the community. I don't know what this board has in mind or has thought about or talked about, but we do recognize that potentially this could be a good fit for Champaign County itself. Not the least of which, of course, is that it's on your campus. You know, one of the things we talked about in our current facility is that it becomes a campus for us, and we see a great advantage of that. So fundamentally, this brings us to the question that we're here to propose today, and that is whether the Humane Society and the Champaign County Board can collaborate toward a win-win solution that meets both our needs. That's fundamentally the question that we'd like to pose to this committee. The Humane Society has a valuable 20-year land lease and a marketable value in our building located on county property. The Champaign County has at least several potential needs that our building could logically help resolve. And I guess the more direct question is the county board interested in our building and our lease value?
Well, thank you, George, for coming. I'm certainly happy to entertain general questions from our committee members, but I will say that any specific questions with regard to property acquisition, we're not going to be discussing at this meeting. That would be appropriate for a closed session, probably of either the whole county board or I'm trying to think what individual committee that might be. It might be our committee in closed session. But if board members have any general questions, I'm happy to let them have some time to throw them your way. Seeing none, thanks so much for coming. I appreciate the information you provided. And George, I'm glad you got back from Maine in one piece.
I got back and I got some great photographs. I'll have to show you
All right.
sometime, Steve.
I will look forward to seeing those at some point. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Just one thing, if you could give us an idea of when you think you might get back to us, so that otherwise,
I can certainly talk with Chair Patterson and see what direction he feels would be best to go. I will communicate with him after this meeting, and we'll get back to you after he gets back with me.
okay, then,
All right.
thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
We'll just go ahead and proceed with our plans.
Move on to new business item B, update on Brooken's Pod 300, 400 rubber roof membrane replacement. Dana, could you carry us on that, please?
Todd, you want to step forward? Pardon me. Todd Higginbotham with Bailey Edwards Architecture here in town. It's helping us oversee our project here at Brookens. Todd, you want to give us an update on?
Sure. So we were fortunate to get Pod 400 completed, tear off, and new membrane placed before winter. So we're halfway. You may recall that we took advantage of some material that was available to us so that we could get Pod 400 done, so that while we're waiting for the other installation on Pod 300. So we were successful there. We're going to do a punch list in the near future to make sure things are buttoned up through the winter months while we wait to finish Pod 300 in the spring.
Might, excuse me, right, remind the committee members that this project, as well as the 300, is part of an insurance payout for the hail damage back in July of 2020. We have a 2-year time limit supposedly to get this done, which puts us basically at June 30th. We have notified our insurance carrier and the adjusters of the materials backup problem that is holding up a lot of projects, just not here in Champaign, but across the United States. And they will work with us, but it's our goal and desire to try and get as many of these done this coming spring. Todd and our contractor were extremely helpful in trying to find the ISO board that he spoke about that we were able to come up with. So it's in high demand and hard to find. So feel very blessed that we were able to get at least Pod 400 done before winter. And hopefully as soon as spring rolls in, we'll get on Pod 300 and go from there.
Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to item C, salt dome asphalt shingle replacement. I'm assuming Todd will give us an update on that as well.
This
Yes.
again is Todd and Bailey Edwards. We just had signed contract with Top Roofing. Bid price is $130,000 even for removing the asphalt shingles of the salt dome and replacing them. You want to tell them where we're at?
Sure. So we have contracts signed. They have secured shingles, so that's one thing that we don't have to worry about. Those have been secured, and so obviously as we are moving into end of fall and winter, it's prudent to kind of be in a holding pattern until spring comes. We have favorable weather and more predictable weather, and so that is tentatively slated to start in the spring. Top Roofing is out of Wheaton. Bailey Edward has worked with them before, and they've actually done work at the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District. So we have worked with them.
Thanks, Todd.
Todd, one quick question.
Yes,
What would do you think the estimated time duration would be for that project once they do get started in the spring? Just curious.
I think 4 weeks is a very conservative estimate. I think they could knock that out in that time, if not.
Okay, thanks so much, appreciate it. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I just might just mention process. They're intending to use lifts. Last conversation I had with the contractor to do the work, so they physically won't necessarily get on the roof, although they will from time to time. But if you've driven by, you know it's pretty steep. So it's easily 4 weeks, maybe as long as 6. So I'm the one slowing it down. We can't afford for them to take the roof off, and all of a sudden we get into winter and rain, and that roof leak onto
Not
a
with
lot of
salt.
value in our
Not
salt.
with
So
salt, no.
it's a bad combination. So
Thank you, Todd, appreciate you coming.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, on to item D, satellite jail HVAC replacement. Dana?
okay, Richard Van Note with GHR Engineering. Richard, you want to bring us up to date? Obviously, there was, if anybody drove by today, we had a crane out there moving steel, trying to get our penthouse started and put up before winter hits. But Richard, you want to update them?
Yeah, as we've discussed a few times based upon this project, we had some major issues when this project first started, kind of based upon the availability of joists. That's kind of happened nationwide. We went ahead and moved the design for that project over to a beam-based roof on the penthouse. Once we were able to do that, we were able to go ahead and move forward with getting steel ordered and things of that nature. As Dana alluded to, steel is basically on site now. It's been lifted off, sitting out there next to the building. At this point in time, they're up there working on roof penetrations to set the new supports for the penthouse, to set the supports for the steel to hold the new chillers whenever those get on site. Essentially, once they finish that, it's time to get into pouring concrete for the new floor of the penthouse and start erecting the shell of the penthouse. In conversations that I've had recently with the contractor, at this point in time, they have on their schedule for completion of the penthouse in first few weeks of January. That is what their schedule is stating right now. They have lots of leeway in that schedule. They have done that purposely just based upon the fact that we're coming into the time where weather might create an issue. So even if we get into some inclement weather, I think we still have the ability to meet that deadline. I don't think that's going to cause us any issues. And we actually have the ability, I hope, to beat that deadline as well. Once they complete that, they can go ahead and move on to the HVAC replacement, as we kind of stated, and be ready to do those air handler replacements in March and early April once the winter weather kind of subsides.
Just for the members, just as a reminder, this is a capital asset fund replacement project that was bid out earlier in the year. With all contingencies, it's about $1.7 million, $1.8 million project to completely replace the HVAC system for the satellite, which was inadequate to supply both warm and cool air for both the residents and the staff in the building. We're moving to a much more efficient system and one that will work digitally as well, getting rid of the pneumatics. I might also note that the contractor has ordered and will be receiving the chillers, the air handlers, and will be holding them on site so that they will be here. So we're ready to go as soon as we get it piped and as soon as Mother Nature breaks as we roll out of winter. So,
Thank you, Dana. Does anybody else have any other questions? Hearing none, thank you, and we'll go on to the hail-damaged HVAC replacement.
Richard, you want to update everybody?
Well, once again, just like every other project that seems to have been coming along lately, we had availability issues with the HVAC units that needed to be replaced in this project. As everybody knows, this is to replace a certain piece of equipment on numerous county buildings that had damage from a hailstorm a little over a year back. As it comes along now, we are just now getting to the point where the contractor is starting to kind of get the enough equipment in place that they believe they have the ability here soon to get up onto the roof and replace about half of the equipment before we get into the inclement weather. Their intent has always been to not get to, let's say, Brooken's. Their intent was never to get here, get onto the roof of, say, Pod 100, do one piece of equipment, pull back, get onto a different roof, do one piece of equipment there. They have been trying to accumulate equipment as they can to where whenever they mobilize, especially, say, at this building, they mobilize to do at least one pod at a time, finish out the work in that area, and move on from there. They're just now kind of reaching the point where they're starting to get enough of that equipment in place to where they can mobilize and do all of that at once. As we kind of discussed last meeting, the intent is to go ahead and do as much of that as they can before inclement weather hits and finish about half the project before we reach about the first or second week of December. That's the intent at this point in time. Then they'll accumulate the rest of the equipment as they receive it. And then they can go ahead and finish the rest of the equipment if necessary in March, early April. If we end up with what appears to be a favorable forecast sometimes during the middle of winter, the contractor is willing and has expressed their hope to go ahead and complete sooner. But as we've stated, the idea on both these projects is that we can complete the projects fully as intended by the end of March, first week of April, when the weather breaks from winter.
Thank you much. Does anybody have any further questions? All right, again, thanks so
Richard,
much for
thank
coming.
you. Appreciate your attendance.
Okay. Moving on to item F, approval of the GIS lease agreement, which we have in our packet, I believe.
So in your packet was the proposed GIS lease for the next 5 years. Starts January 1st of 22 through December 31st of 26. The previous lease that we just will be ending at the end of the year was fairly aggressive increases for them. It's 5% a year for each of the 5 years. This is a more modest increase at 2% a year. I feel that's fair in today's climate. They were also a partner with the county. It's really kind of an auxiliary unit, certainly of the counties. My office happens to do a lot of work with them because of the ability to capture photos of buildings off of their satellite photos and images. So they are extremely helpful to us. But I think it's a fair and a good way to go, particularly in our times of where we're at today. Hopefully coming out of the pandemic, not knowing where the economy is going to go. I think this is fair. They started fairly small in terms of their dollars. Again, I think it's a fair and right way to go.
Thank you. Any committee members have any comments or questions for Dana?
I just,
Jenny.
on, number or letter E under the rent, it looks like there might be a digit missing. I was trying to figure out what that total should be. It says 5,9240 annually. Page 9 in the packet, page 2 of the lease. Page 9 of the packet. I think it should be 5,492.40. Okay. Oh, it's correct on yours. Oh, okay, so you don't have it. Okay.
Okay. Okay. If no one has any further questions, can I have a motion to approve this lease agreement? Moved by
So
Mr.
moved.
Goss. Can I have a second, please? Moved by Ms. Taylor. Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Moves us down to item G, approval of RPC lease agreement. And Delitzo, if he is still awake, can come forward from the back of the room. Sorry about this, Delitzo.
Delitzo, I don't know, did you have something prepared that you want to say, or I was just going to kind of cover?
All right.
Have a seat,
Yeah,
because
just in case you need to
I
answer
want to
any
make sure I get it
questions,
right,
Delitzo.
but RPC's contract is up at the end of this fiscal year. So this is a new contract proposal for the next 5 years. Again, January 1 of '22 through December 31st of '26. RPC's been a terrific partner of the counties for many years and continues to be. We were on not very long ago, we were on a lengthy contract of 20 years where RPC actually donated $1 million, they lent $1 million to the county board to allow the county to make some improvements here in this building, and paid the RPC back over a 20-year period. And for that, they were granted a very low but fair rent. Once that contract was up, we have steadily moved forward with the rent to a dollar amount where I think a little more competitive within the county. I would also say, and you got a copy of the letter that RPC provided, they've done an audit per, I think, their requirements for the federal funding and grants that they receive. There was great information that they supplied to us, and it certainly shows that there are a number of properties, as I'm sure you all know, aware, that are empty around town, and some of them are available at a very low dollar, $8 a square foot, to $9, and then others are up at $10, $12. But there's a large amount of property that is available for lease. So RPC has suggested cutting back on what we felt we were going to increase, which I think is extremely fair for where we're at and in the economic time that we're kind of heading to. So for 22, it'd be a flat, no increase. For 23, 24, 25, 26, it'd be a 2%, trying to keep kind of up with the CPI increase each of those years. Dollars are listed on the contract. Those are not insignificant dollars, and certainly help the county greatly, as hopefully the space allows RPC to function and perform their duties. So both Darlene and I would recommend approving this and having it go forward. Delitzo, do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
No, just to thank you and, thank the county for certainly working with the RPC over the years. And we, I think particularly now, most of our clients, know where we're located. And so we certainly want to stay here at Brooken's and really appreciate the opportunity to continue to lease space from the county.
Do any committee members have any questions? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Jenny?
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out from here, what does this figure to the rate per square foot for RPC? $8.76, okay, thank you.
No further questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this lease agreement.
So
Okay,
moved.
Ms. Lockshin, do I have a second? Second by Mr. Goss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Delitzo.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the semi-annual review of closed session minutes that I think has made its way all the way around. I will get that at the end. I have no presiding officer's report. Our next meeting will be December 7th, Tuesday, which strikes me as amazing that it will be December and we'll having a meeting in December. Designation of items to be placed on consent agenda would be items 6F and 6G. If no one has anything further they'd like to bring up at this point, then this meeting, yes, go ahead, Dan. I have not actually looked at them since they've gone around, but I would assume that everybody's in agreement that we will leave them remaining closed. Thank you, Dan. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks, for coming. Appreciate it.